How's it going, guys? Today I'm out here at Dolly Cooper Disc Golf Course in Powdersville, South Carolina. This is a course that I've only played, I think, once before, so I'm excited to be back out here again. But today I thought I'd just play around and take you along with me and show you the course, so I hope you enjoy it. For this round, I'm going to be doing some voiceover commentary to let you know what I'm throwing and tell you a little bit about my mindset going into each hole. Starting out here on hole 1, this is a wide open 305-foot shot. The real danger here is the drop off behind the basket. This basket is on the very edge of a mound. So to the right and behind the basket, as you can tell right here, there's a pretty significant drop off. I went with a Champion Eagle there. Normally I'd go mid-range, but we had kind of a headwind on this hole, so I wanted to make sure I had something that finished into that hillside. About edge of the circle here and just leave that putt a little bit short. So I'm going to take a par to start my round. Not too upset with that. Again, considering the wind, I was putting into a headwind, but would like to have that one considering it is a pretty open shot. Hole number 2 is 405 feet. The basket is tucked into those big trees straight ahead. I'm going with an Esplin Faro. We did have a headwind again, so I kept that one a little bit lower than I would have liked. Got a good flight out of it with lots of glide, but just a little bit too low. I did get pin high, so I'm pin high to the right of the basket. I'm about 40 feet or so for this putt. And what I'm telling myself for this one is to make sure to give it enough height because I do kind of have a backdrop behind the basket and I still leave it short, even after telling myself to give it some height. So I'm going to take another par. No harm up to this point, but would like to have one of those two. Hole 3, in my opinion, is one of the tougher holes on the course. This is a really tight gap you have to hit, and you got to have something that goes straight and finishes up to the left. I'm going with the ESP Buzz, and I threw this one great, but it needed to be about a foot or so to the right. I hit those trees on the left side of the fairway and kicked to the right. It did put me pin high. It kicked me a little bit forward, but I'm down in this ditch. I have terrible footing. This camera angle was mainly meant to squeeze me and the basket in the frame, so this is actually closer in the camera than it really was. I was probably edge of circle. Didn't have much there, so I'm going to have to take another par. Again, starting out 3 holes, 3 pars, no harm, but again, would like to have one of those. Hole number 4 is 330 feet going uphill. Definitely plays farther than that. I'm going with a Metal Flake Color Glow Faro. Trying to make sure I leave it out wide enough to let it sweep into that hillside, but I'd throw it a little bit too inside. Still had a good line, but it catches those tree limbs and knocks me down. I'm probably 45 feet here, maybe 40 uphill. And I remember on this particular putt, we did have a pretty strong wind gust. So again, after missing putts so far, I'm just telling myself to give it enough height, and I still leave it a little bit short and right. So once again, going to have to take a par. Definitely don't want to have all pars going into the first 4 holes, but at least they're not bogeys. Hopefully I can get some birdies going here, moving into hole 5. Hole 5 is a kind of a technical shot. You want to throw a flex sidearm. The basket is up on the right, and it's perched up on this hill. So I'm going with an Esplin Scepter, something I know I can get to turn, but it's going to fade back hard. And sorry, I did block the shot there, but I crashed into the hill right by the basket, as you can see right here. And it did roll me back down the hill a little bit. So I'm about 15, maybe 20 feet, and this should be a relatively easy birdie to get. And get my first birdie of the round, so now I'm telling myself I've got the pars out of the way, now it's time to string along some birdies here. This was a pretty large snake that I saw right by the basket on hole 5. It was about, I would say, about 3.5 feet long, so just wanted to leave him alone, let him go about his day, keep those poisonous snakes away for us. Hole 6, 210 feet. This is going downhill, and this is on a hillside left to right. So I'm going with the D-Blend Tomb. This is my straight one. I'm wanting to make sure I get it to turn, but I want it to fade back so that it doesn't go all the way down the hill and into that ditch that's down to, if you're looking at the basket from this point of view, down to the right. I do have a straddle putt out. I'm probably about 25 feet away from the basket. After missing some putts around this range, I want to make sure I give it enough height, and was able to do it on that one, getting my second birdie in a row and my second birdie of the round. Hole number 7 is very uphill. It's 190 feet. Somewhat of a tight gap, but with it being such a short hole, you really just want to make sure you get something up the hill, get by the basket. So I'm going with a Champion Viper here, and hit the gap and did exactly what I wanted to do. I'm fine with finishing to the right of the basket. I'm probably, again, 15, maybe 20 feet away, and I'm going to have another tap in for my third birdie in a row, and again, my third birdie of the round. Hole number 8 is actually a new hole to the course. They had to modify some of these holes. This one goes up over this hill and goes back downhill, so you want to have good speed control here. So I'm going with my beat-in D-blend tomb. I'm just trying to kind of coast it down that hillside. I think I hit one of these trees. So I'm about edge of circle once again, kind of a recurring theme so far in my round. This tree hanging over is definitely lower than it looks. It was more in the way of my putt, so I'm trying to get a little more spin on this one, and luckily was able to get the height and the speed that I needed. Hole number 9 is a new tee pad since the last time I played it. It normally is up on the hill close to where hole 7's basket is, and you throw downhill. Hole 9 is perched up on this hill once again, and there's a huge drop off behind it, so it's really easy to go long. I went with a Viper there to make sure that I didn't go long. I hit those early trees, as you can tell, and right now I'm just wanting to make sure I lay this up and don't get any kind of roll, because it has a tendency to roll all the way back down into that field that you can see right there. So I'm fine with a par on that one, finishing out the front 9. Going into the back 9, hole 10, you got a couple options here. That tree right in the middle, the light green one, I don't know if I'm being clear enough, but that's the one you can go either to the left or to the right of, and I throw my disc right into it. The basket goes into the woods behind it. So I'm just going with my Big Z zone here, trying to just pitch up. I went with an Emperor off the tee, and go with the Big Z zone, just a nice little pitch up. Got about 15 feet. To clean up my par. So not too happy with that tee shot. Felt like I could have given it a better effort, but not a bad hole to take a par on. Moving into hole 11, 210 feet. This is kind of a weird tee shot. You have to go through this gap, and the basket is up on this hill once again. I'm actually going with an Exodus, even though it's only 210 feet. I'm trying to throw something a little bit softer that I know is going to hyzer and get up that hill. And I had a pretty good line on it, but I clipped some trees towards the end of the flight, and it knocked me down short of the hill. So I've got about 25 feet uphill, and luckily can convert for that one, getting my first birdie on the back 9. Hole 12 is one of my favorite holes on the course. It's 290 feet. It's a shot that I don't typically get to throw on a lot of courses, but you're uphill, you're throwing downhill, but you don't want to have something that goes too long into the woods. So you want to have something that has the right speed control that's going to hyzer and not push too far forward. So I went with the Champion Eagle there, and I think I came pretty close to acing it, maybe just a little bit short. I'm about 15 feet, and that putt did not want to stay in, but thankfully it grabbed anyway, giving me my second birdie in a row on the back 9. Hole 13 is also one of my favorite holes. 300 feet, definitely plays farther than that. Going uphill, you got to have something that goes uphill and bends to the right. So I'm going with my iBlend Sphinx here, which is my understable one. This thing is pretty flippy, and man, I don't think I could have thrown that any better. Getting myself about 20 feet from the basket, it curved perfectly into the gap and got me right up there for an easy tap in for the birdie. Hole number 14 is 310 feet, kind of a blind tee shot. You can't really see the basket from the tee. Not a great line to get there, so I'm actually going to try to go up and over those trees you can see right there in the middle of that gap. The only problem is when you go up and over, there are some trees that are blocking the basket. So unfortunately, I got caught up in those, as you can tell. This is actually outside the circle. It doesn't look like it from the camera angle, but I've got a skinny gap I have to hit in order to make this putt. And somehow I hit it and caught corner pocket on the basket and got a nice little spin around the basket once it got in there.
giving myself another birdie. So I feel pretty good at this point. Hole 15, 195 feet, really easy hole in my opinion. You just want to throw either a little soft forehand or a soft turnover shot. I'm going with a big Z zone, and I throw it way too straight and hit some of those tree limbs, knocking me down probably about 30 feet short. I did have to straddle out from this tree. Those tree limbs were right in the way of my putt, so trying to get as much out as I can. Should hit this putt, but I leave it too far right. Have to end up taking a par on this one. This is definitely a hole, in my opinion, you don't want to take a par on. Pretty easy routine forehand shot, and unfortunately just didn't set myself up for an easy putt there. Hole 16 is another relatively easy hole. Pretty wide open, only like 235 feet. I'm going with my Champion Viper once again. We did have more of a wind on this hole as well, so I just wanted to make sure I had something that would fade well enough in the wind. Got that one up pretty high, just trying to spike it in, and got about 15 feet once again. So this is a pretty easy tap in for another birdie. Now we're coming on to one of my favorite holes on the course, hole 17. This is 395 feet. You're teeing off up on the hill, and then it goes downhill, and then it finishes back up on the hill. So you're about level with the tee pad and the basket. So I'm going with my Emperor here. This is my S-Blend Emperor, and I'm just trying to get it up high over those trees, throwing in a big spike hyzer. And for a second, I thought that was going to go in, but it got a little bit of a carry from the wind that was pushing right to left. But still, probably about 25 feet here to the left of the basket, pin high, and I'm going to hopefully be able to tap this in for the birdie. And it barely caught on that left side there, so able to snag another birdie on a pretty difficult hole considering the wind. Hole 18 is a great finishing hole, 250 feet. It looks like an island is around the basket, but it actually is a bigger island than you would think. So I'm going with a big Z zone here, just making sure I get in the big island. You'll see in just a second that island, or the circle that's around the basket, that is not the island that you're trying to hit. I'm about edge of circle. Those rocks are about 25 feet, so I'm about 30 or so right here. I'm trying to finish my round on a strong note, and luckily I'm able to do that, finishing my round at 11 under. Well guys, that's going to wrap this video up. This is a fantastic course. I really enjoyed being out there. The weather was perfect. If you're ever in the Greenville area or the Powdersville area or somewhere in the Easley area, make sure to come check out this course. It's very well maintained. I really like the changes that they've made. It's just been, it was a joy to be out there playing it. So if you're ever in this area, make sure to come check it out. Hopefully we'll have some more content for you guys here in the near future, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But until then, everybody stay safe, and I'll make sure to see you in the next one.